Hi, I'm Christina Kerp, and I am a HS warrior. I've had HS, hidradenitis suppurativa, since I was 13 years old. I create content online to help people manage chronic illness and autoimmune disease. And I wanted to start creating specific content on this channel specific for HS. I have a few videos, but I'm going to be consolidating more of that. Sorry. Um, anyways, I'm doing this as a live instead of just recording it on like Zoom and then bringing it on here, just to have the video just more easily integrated onto the YouTube channel. But what I want to use this video as a HS 101, hidradenitis suppurativa survival guide. So the way that we're going to do that is just kind of go through the basics of the condition, of the pathology of the condition, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how I put it into remission and deal with it. But there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to HS. And while I'm not a doctor, I'm again just not a doctor or medical professional. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner, a holistic nutritionist, and I do specialize in helping people with autoimmune disease and inflammatory and chronic illnesses. So not only have I myself like put my own HS in remission and just managed it really well through these methods, but I've helped a lot of other people as well. And so I want to give this information as an alternative. One, when you have a chronic illness, it is our responsibility to be as educated as possible and have a deeper understanding of what's going on with our bodies. It also helps us be a better team, even with our doctors, to manage it right properly. So, first, do I have HS? I get this question all the time. I mean, people sometimes even send me pictures, which sometimes is like a little like, whoa, whoa. But I think that, if you need a diagnosis, try to see a dermatologist. They're going to be the doctor that's going to give you a proper diagnosis. Unfortunately, a lot of primary care doctors don't know what it is, and that's fairly common misdiagnosis when it comes to HS. But it is an autoinflammatory skin condition. It's characterized by painful bumps that appear on the skin and can range from like pea sized to golf ball sized. And they usually impact areas where there's skin folds, like there's underarm, inner thigh, groin, buttocks, breasts, and chest. However, it doesn't have to do with the skin folding. I think it has more to do with like there's also lymph node concentrations in these areas. So these painful bumps you can feel them under the skin for a while, and they can hurt, but they often then can come to the surface, and sometimes they just stay like hard bumps. Sometimes over time they get bigger, they get softer, they get red, they get inflamed. Sometimes they open, they drain. That's very common. So the painful bumps will develop essentially into boils or inverted acne and can burst, leak fluid, like oftentimes blood and pus or like a clear liquid. When you're stage one, because there are different stages, usually it goes past three, but 1 through 3 are the most common. You're going to have isolated, like one boil, like isolated events, and that's usually stage one, where you're getting 1 or 2 boils at a time, and they're maybe, next to each other in separate areas. When you progress to stage two, you might start getting the boils in clusters where they're a few all like connected. And then as you progress, there's tunneling, where even if you have like a boil here and maybe one here, there's kind of a tunnel underneath the skin, which connects them. So let's say this one pops, but this one doesn't, it'll like all leak this way. Or sometimes the people will notice where like they'll have a flare here, but it doesn't drain here. It'll drain through a hole that's somewhere else. And again, there can be like a system of tunnels. When there's really bad stage three and there's a lot of tunneling, this can really impact the texture of the skin, where it just becomes very, very damaged over time from flares on flares on flares and all the tunneling. And that can be extremely painful. Hidradenitis suppurativa can absolutely be a debilitating condition that can make it hard to work and to function in society. A lot of it has to do with just the sheer pain that it causes. It can be extremely painful. And because of where it impacts people, like especially in the underarms or inner thigh and groin area, it can make it hard to move your arms and walk and sit. So hidradenitis suppurativa is not an infection. People often assume, and often, unfortunately, even doctors, prescribe a lot of antibiotics and harsh cleansing soaps for it. But infections can occur because of the nature of the condition and because there are open wounds that can be involved. So infections that occur with HS are a secondary issue. And unfortunately, a lot of people just go their whole lives dealing with it on their own without a diagnosis and just kind of thinking it's their fault. And a lot of people that I've talked to through my platforms have had the same story of, I was told it's my fault. I was told it's because I was dirty. I was told it's because I need to lose weight. Just a number of things that are not true. So you're not alone. It's not because you're dirty. It's not because your body size. It's not a lack of hygiene. It's not your fault at all. You know, there are genetics that predispose us to hidradenitis suppurativa, to inflammatory conditions, to autoimmune disease, and certain lifestyle and environmental factors, which are things that we're not aware of or even in control of half the time, are the things that contribute to inflammation, which make it worse over time. So, what causes HS, right? Let's get the because this is kind of like the question of the hour, and unfortunately, there's no definitive answer because even amongst like the research and medical community, there's still a little bit of you know disagreement. But we'll talk about the latest uh, research on this. So the cause of HS is still unknown, but there's several theories. The most popular school of thought it has to do with follicular occlusion. Follicular occlusion means that hair follicles become blocked with keratin and then form cysts or boils, which often rupture, thus creating an inflammatory skin condition. Keratin is a type of protein that's found in our hair and nails and skin. And so essentially, it's like we produce too much of it. However, there's another study that shifts away from the follicular occlusion theory and proposes that hidradenitis suppurativa is an autoinflammatory condition or an autoinflammatory keratinization disease. Um, so, per Cambridge Dictionary, keratinization is the acquisition of a horn-like character by the epithelial tissues in many parts of the body, essentially meaning that like there's a over buildup of protein in the body that creates bumps. And that could be it. Maybe like our body, it's the way that our body reacts to inflammation is with overproducing this protein. Um, so as cells move from one epithelial layer to the next, from one layer of skin to the next, they accumulate more and more keratin, right, through this process of keratinization. So more and more protein, and it builds up. So an observational experiment and also therapeutic evidence supports the concept of hidradenitis suppurativa as a primarily inflammatory disorder, a disorder of autoimmunity, or both. So I agree with this one study that does say that HS is like more autoimmune, more inflammatory. Um, and I think that if you understand that autoimmune diseases have to do with the immune system overreacting and then attacking healthy cells, that maybe it is the immune system attacking the skin or the something to do with the protein and the keratin, and that's why it builds up and creates the bumps, the boils, the hard balls that essentially get hard, and it can become the cysts, right? A lot of studies point to low serums, to low to vitamin deficiencies like zinc, vitamin D, and magnesium being common among HS patients. I personally see a lot of benefits to my clients with HS supplementing with these vitamins and minerals. So inflammation is a theme that's present among all the theories, right? So whether it is follicular occlusion, whether it's autoimmune, whether it's the keratinization, all that weird sciencey stuff that you're kind of like, doesn't really matter. Inflammation is at the base of HS. So regarding the root cause, if we look at HS as an autoimmune and autoinflammatory condition with a pathology of autoimmune disease, right? And treating HS like an autoimmune disease, in my opinion, works. So many things can cause inflammation in the body, from leaky gut to poor diet to out of whack hormones to blood sugar dysregulation. And though that can seem like these things are all disconnected, in functional nutrition and holistic care, everything is connected. So the way that your gut health is, it will have a lot to do with, the way you digest foods has a lot to do with even your blood sugar regulation, and your gut health has a lot to do with your hormone health. So to wrap it up, to keep this not so long, now that I hope it gives you a little bit of background and understanding of why my HS might be presenting, could be a history of, for me, I know that something played into it is like a history of like taking too many antibiotics as a kid and a poor diet. But when you focus on things like, is my digestion good? Do I have regular bowel movements? Do I not have burping and belching and bloating after meals? Do I sleep well? Do I manage my stress? Do I chew my food properly? These things that are foundational have a trickle down effect that then help you create an overall less inflammation in your body, like a healthy ecosystem and a better gut health. Um, so how I put it in remission was through diet and lifestyle and supplements. As a nutritional therapy practitioner, I've helped a lot of people do the same. I find that the approach that really works is finding your trigger foods via an elimination diet, optimizing digestion by managing stress, chewing your food properly, digestive enzymes, using a really good probiotic, drinking gut healing foods, like eating gut healing foods, bone broth, sauerkraut, cabbage in general is really good for your gut, fermented foods, things like that. Blood sugar regulation is really key. A lot of people with HS have insulin resistance, and some doctors do use metformin. Chronically high insulin can really help, like lead to chronic inflammation as well. So balanced meals doesn't mean you have to go low carb, but definitely focusing on protein, omitting sugars from your diet and like refined sugars. Nutrient density. Remember, we talked about zinc, vitamin D, and magnesium being deficient among HS people. So eating liver, eating oysters, eating good quality foods. I mean, I'm a huge fan of organ meats to get a lot of nutrient density. Vitamin D, something you can supplement with as well. Stress management, that's going to help with hormones, that's going to help with digestion, that's going to help with everything. Stress in and of itself causes inflammation in the body, like through the hormones that it releases and the way that it affects everything else. So while we can't, I think that it's tone deaf to tell everyone that they have to like live in a zen state, because I know that's not the case. And a lot of people, you've got kids, you've got jobs, there's shit happening. But creating boundaries and habits, whether it's 10 minutes, 5 minutes of breathing every day, going to bed a little bit earlier, taking, I was at Glenn Doyle in Untamed. She talks about how she would sit in her coat closet in the morning, like hide in there for 10 minutes. And that kind of became her meditation without it actually being meditation. Those kind of things. And then walking, Pilates, yoga, working out and making sure you're moving your body, stimulating that lymphatic system, which is really important for HS. Lastly, topical care. And while I definitely think with hidradenitis suppurativa, healing from the inside out is key, there is a lot that you can do topically to avoid inflammation starting from the outside, because external irritants like toxic deodorants, just clothes that rub too much. Like if this shirt was made of lace or had anything rough here, it would irritate my skin. And that irritation, because I have HS, could turn into, right, that over keratinization could exponentially turn into a boil. And that's the weird thing with HS. Yes, it is an inflammatory issue that comes from the inside out, but there's a lot of external factors because of where we flare that it can be triggered, right? So shaving, rubbing, heat, all that stuff. So I'm a big fan of like tea tree oil. I'm a big fan of, if you do shave, I love this product called Ten Skin. Again, I have all these resources on my website as well. And I do have a skincare YouTube video for HS. And in my HS course, I do deep dive into the topical care. And I will do more videos. So this is just kind of like a 101. But the point is that it's the kind of condition that you want to hit it from all sides. You want to hit it from external factors and internal factors. So if you're interested in learning more about putting your HS in remission holistically, I hope you stick around. You can leave your comments and questions on this video, and I'll create more content to answer your questions. So I hope this was helpful. Again, I'm Christina Kerp. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner. And HS is my flavor of chronic illness among some other things, but I've done really well in managing it and staying mostly in remission over the last, I think 5 years now, which has been really cool. And I share my journey on here as openly and, transparent as possible. So, because if it helps one person, that's good enough for me. We also have an HS and intimacy group on Facebook. You can message me or email me if you want to join that. It's a private group where we, discuss and navigate intimacy, dating, and sex and relationships with the skin condition. So if that's something that interests you, we have live calls on Zoom every 2 weeks. The next one will be November 17th. And the link will be shared in the Facebook group. So it's also in my LinkedIn profile, which you can find on my Instagram or TikTok or whatever. But again, you can always email me if you want that information. And yeah, leave your questions in the comments, and I will create content again to answer whatever information you want to know on here. So wishing you well, and I hope this was helpful. And also put some links in the comments for more resources. Thanks.